Midnight in Azarun was anything but silent. Sirens pierced the coastal darkness, slicing through the hum of restless streets as shadows of drones streaked across the skyline like predators in the night. Somewhere deep in a fortified command bunker, Commander Vahran's eyes were glued to a bank of monitors, each one flickering with the pulse of the city and the calculated rhythm of his 87th wave. He wasn't reacting. He was orchestrating, weaving strategy and timing into a deadly symphony meant to reshape the battlefield entirely. Far across the region, General Tovian pounded his fists against the steel consoles of Israel's Sky Guard command center, every alert flashing a warning that the rules of engagement had shifted. This wasn't just retaliation. This was something far more deliberate. A sustained campaign designed to test defenses, to probe weaknesses, and to announce a new era of warfare. At the center of it all, the Emad 7 missile hovered in everyone's consciousness, a weapon of unmatched precision, capable of turning a city into a chessboard where only Vahran seemed to know the moves. In that quiet before impact, the world realized that conflict had evolved, and the lines between deterrence and escalation had blurred forever. Beneath the jagged peaks of Shiraz Heights, hidden deep within a bunker carved from stone and steel, Commander Vahran leaned over the glowing lattice of satellite feeds, eyes scanning every flicker of movement across the region. Missile trajectories curved on his screens like the arcs of a predator's strike, each one mapped with surgical precision. He wasn't just a soldier, he was a strategist, a master of leverage who understood that modern warfare was as much about power projection as it was about politics. The Emad 7 missile loomed at the center of his plans, a sleek instrument of reach and accuracy, capable of touching the heart of cities that had long thought themselves untouchable. Vahran's voice, low and calm, cut through the hum of machinery. They won't see it coming until it's too late. The words were not a threat. They were a promise. While the world assumed Iran was reacting, Vahran was orchestrating every move with relentless patience, each decision a calculated step toward a battlefield no one else could yet see. Every launch, every strike, was a message written in fire precision control and an inevitability. Inside the sprawling labyrinth of Israel's Sky Guard command center, alarms screamed like a chorus of ghosts, each flash and siren a reminder that the invisible war had already begun. General Tovian's hands flew over the consoles, toggling radar feeds, issuing commands, trying to make sense of a battlefield that refused to reveal itself. Shale drones swarmed first, small and relentless, buzzing through defenses like shadows, drawing attention while the real threat, the Emad missiles, slid silently along their deadly paths. Every decision weighed on Tovian like a stone in his chest. How do you protect millions when your enemy hides in plain sight, striking with precision you can't predict? The screens were alive with data, yet none of it felt tangible. He was chasing ghosts while lives hung in the balance. The psychological toll was immediate and brutal. Every beep, every blip, a whisper of danger he could neither see nor touch. Outmaneuvered by an enemy who existed in a digital haze, Tovian knew the war had already changed, and the rules he once relied on no longer applied. The night sky over the Negev plains erupted in a streak of fire as the Emad 7 missile tore from its silo, a gleaming spear of engineered intent. In slow motion, its course shifted mid-flight, adjusting with uncanny precision as though guided by thought itself, weaving past radars and defensive fire. Below, a swarm of shale drones danced like phantom shadows, kamikaze munitions on their first wave, drawing interceptors and attention away from the real strike. This was not chaos, it was choreography, a carefully layered assault designed to confuse, overwhelm, and ultimately dominate. Each missile, each drone, each decoy moved in concert, a symphony of destruction and deception. Modern warfare had evolved. No longer was brute force enough. Precision, timing, and psychological pressure had become the ultimate weapons, and tonight, the battlefield was being rewritten in real time. The hidden hub in Negev crumbled under the Emad's impact, a stark demonstration that in this new era, strategy had become a weapon more lethal than any explosion alone. Inside the dimly lit drone operations center, a bank of young operators leaned over flickering screens, tracking the shale drones as they wove through Israeli radar, like a living net of shadows. Fingers danced over joysticks and touchpads, guiding the kamikaze swarm with precision, knowing that every movement mattered. This was only the first wave. Behind it, the Emad 7 missiles were already arcing silently toward their marks, invisible threats waiting to exploit every distraction. The brilliance of the assault lay in its layering. Drones first, missiles second, forcing defenders into impossible decisions. Intercept the swarm and risk leaving the real strike unchallenged, or focus on the missile threat and let drones create chaos? One misstep, one hesitation, could tip the balance, turning the unseen battlefield into a deadly trap. It was a war of timing and deception, where shadows dictated the rules and precision had replaced sheer numbers. Every blip on the screen was more than data. It was a potential pivot point between control and catastrophe. Night fell like a heavy curtain over the city, and the streets of Azeron flickered with distant explosions. Satellite footage revealed strikes landing on seemingly ordinary urban buildings and industrial compounds, places that had once blended seamlessly into the cityscape. Civilians ran for cover, their faces lit by intermittent firelight, unaware of the invisible war threading through their neighborhoods. Hidden among them, intelligence operatives moved like shadows, blending in with the chaos, their presence known only to a few. From Tehran, Commander Vahran's broadcasts claimed the strikes were surgical, aimed solely at military-linked targets, command centers, weapons depots, and disguised operational hubs. From Tel Aviv, General Tovian's intelligence painted a grimmer picture: civilian risk, infrastructure damaged, lines between combatant and bystander dangerously blurred. Modern warfare had no clear front lines anymore. Hidden operational hubs, disguised depots, and dual-purpose facilities turned everyday life into a battleground. In this new era, the city itself became a chessboard, and every innocent step carried unseen consequences. In a polished conference hall in Geneva, diplomats huddled around long tables, papers shuffled, voices rising and falling in carefully measured tones. Promises of progress, calls for restraint, and tentative agreements filled the room, each side projecting calm control. Outside the glass walls, the night sky screamed a different story. Distant explosions shook the horizon, and the low hum of incoming drones and missiles served as an audible reminder that negotiation and war were running in parallel, like two sides of a coin spinning in midair. Every statement of compromise was shadowed by a calculated escalation on the ground. Military actions weren't random. They were leverage, pressure applied silently to strengthen bargaining positions while keeping opponents off balance. The paradox of modern conflict became clear: diplomacy in word, aggression in deed. The world watched discussions unfold, unaware that every handshake was accompanied by trajectories drawn thousands of kilometers away, where precision strikes and psychological maneuvers dictated the real terms of engagement. In this theater, words and war coexisted uneasily, each shaping the other in a high-stakes dance of power. Maps flickered across screens in war rooms from Jerusalem to Washington, highlighting multiple regions simultaneously under threat. Each blinking dot represented more than a target. It was a statement, a message that nowhere was truly safe. Cities, industrial zones, and strategic hubs all felt the invisible pressure of a campaign designed to unnerve and destabilize. Civilians moved cautiously through streets, uncertain which shadow held danger, while markets reacted nervously to the uncertainty. oil prices spiking as alliances reevaluated risks and trade routes trembled under the weight of fear. The genius of Commander Vahran's strategy lay not only in destruction, but in the invisible hand of psychological pressure. Precision strikes, coordinated drones, and carefully timed launches created a sense of unpredictability that rippled through governments, militaries, and populations alike. In this modern battlefield, fear itself became a weapon, calculated, relentless, and inescapable. Every map, every trajectory, every missile wasn't just a physical threat. It was a pulse of anxiety sent across a region teetering on the edge, reminding the world that war is as much about control of perception as control of territory. Dawn broke over Azeron, painting the smoke from last night's strikes in streaks of gold and gray. The city bore the marks of conflict. Buildings scarred, streets still tense, but it was not obliterated. Far above, satellites and cameras recorded the results of a campaign that had changed the rules of war. Commander Vahran's Emad 7 missiles, paired with swarms of shale drones, had proven a new truth. Precision and coordination now outweighed raw firepower. Destruction could be measured not just in ruins, but in control, influence, and the careful shaping of perception. Around the globe, leaders watched with clenched jaws, understanding that the battle was not over with explosions. It extended into the realms of strategy, psychology, and diplomacy. Sustained pressure applied with surgical timing communicated more than a threat. It broadcasted resolve, intelligence, and capability without the need for total annihilation. The moral of this modern conflict was clear: true power isn't counted in the debris left behind, but in the precision of action, the timing of moves, and the influence over decisions. Every strike, every maneuver ripples far beyond the battlefield. The red line is not just a geographic boundary, it is a test of strategy, patience, and restraint. In a world perched on the knife edge of escalation, the real question isn't who can strike. It's who can control the consequences. And in that control lies the true measure of power.